we have the best stem cells, that are on the markets
Right.
in humans right now
Right.
with the hypoxic cells. There's a lot of studies on that, but I mean, what we're going to be doing beyond that with the chondrocytes, with the neural cells, with the cardiomyocytes, it's really next level stuff. Like always innovating. Deddrick Perry Scotty Nelson, welcome to the podcast.
Hey,
Hey,
happy to be here.
It's been a long time since we've
Yeah.
talked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole, I don't know, all day, every day,
Right.
Yeah.
About a few hours.
multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been wanting to do this for a while because we've had so much go on over the last 9 years. I don't think we've ever done a podcast together.
No, I
I
don't think so.
don't think all three of
No.
us.
And so, who knows what we'll get into.
Ooh, magic.
We had a little fun last night.
Yeah.
Dave Chapelle, Scotty came through with the third row tickets.
Yes.
Got lucky.
Yeah, we went to Dave
Thanks,
Chapelle,
Dave.
2 years ago?
I was trying to think of when that was. I think it was 2 years ago in
It
Vegas.
was my birthday.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
was your birthday.
Yep.
Dom went.
What's your favorite Chapelle
Like stand up or TV?
stand up?
Ooh. I mean, I think the Vegas show was like more. I don't know if it's because it was like around deeper in COVID and it was like I needed to laugh and just get some stuff off my chest. But I think that Vegas show was just like hit me a lot harder, funnier. But I'm a Chapelle show, TV show purist.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Definitely love the skits, the just ridiculous nature of all of his comedies. Hilarious.
Yeah,
So-
last night was good. I like the Vegas show even better.
Mhm.
But it's always good. I mean, he's like such a legend.
Yep.
What's your favorite, Scott?
I liked Vegas better. Last night was really good,
Mhm.
but it might have also been because Rogan killed it right before too.
Right.
Yeah.
The setup.
So there was a
It's
lot
key.
of good setup in there.
Yeah.
A hell of a setup when you got Joe Rogan opening for you.
right.
Yeah.
Tom
right.
Segura before that.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's key.
good.
Yeah. What about skit wise? What do you think? Like on his on the comedy show?
Last night or just all?
Just in general.
Oh, man. The actual Ashley Larry skit and like Dave Chappelle being a crackhead to me is the most hilarious thing.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just he does it so well you could tell he's actually like seen some crackheads and been around a little scratching on that thing. I'm like, oh, this is hilarious.
when he goes on Fear Factor with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, one thing you don't know about me. I smoke crack.
right. It's always hilarious. Always.
Yeah, he's the best, man. Comedy is one of those things that, I mean, it's always been a part of all of our lives.
Mhm.
We
Oh, yeah.
love stand up and, we love joking around too, just in general. I think what Chappelle does the best is kind of puts things into perspective
Mhm.
in a funny way. Like life, as wild as it is, all the craziness that's going on, like breaks it down
Right.
in a way that I don't want to say makes the other side look makes the other side look pretty dumb.
Right.
Well, last night when he pulled the kid, like he's like, "Hey, how old are you?" And then he talked about who's in whose dreams and stuff like that. Like what a way. Satterfield and I were talking about that last night. Like what a way to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Like powerful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about being in someone's dream and you're in their dream, which is the true reality of our existence,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, to be able to tie humor into something so profound, is like, that's deep,
Yeah.
right? He's definitely more than just a comedian. He's a deep thinker and very perceptive person.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you think about like the open-minded, deep thinkers of the
Right.
day, and it's, you don't really hear it much anymore because I think, we talked about years ago, you and I did a podcast, Deddrick, and you were talking about the leadership is the algorithm
Right, yeah.
that's leading our thoughts and those type of things. So I think that society gets one side,
Uh-huh.
whatever side that they're kind of on, their echo chamber.
Of course.
But there's those deep thinkers like Chapelle. I would put Rogan in that category too. He can break stuff down, really well. Elon Musk is another one. I mean, they're the standouts. And it's also interesting now that you have whatever the machine is going after those people that are thinking
Mm,
differently.
right. It's just differently and but critically, just asking questions.
Yes.
I think that's the big difference between, those that we perceive to be deep and those that are shallow thinkers is the type of questions that are asked if questions are being asked of self and the world around us. So you look at a guy like Dave Chapelle and Joe Rogan, they have a certain platform where they can use humor to really expose things that the average non-humorous person will have a difficult time saying in public, right? They can tell a joke and expose some deep questioning, and some of the jokes that even Dave mentioned, kind of caused me to like think about some things,
Mhm.
like ask some questions like, this is an interesting thought through a joke,
Yeah.
right? So using comedy and humor in that way, I think has always been a part for the masters of comedy, and I think that those two definitely fall into that category for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Rogan got me thinking with the his Noah's Ark skit years ago.
Oh God, yeah.
Really funny skit. And I'm a Christian,
Mhm.
and it was it was, I'm not gonna say offensive, but it was like, ooh, didn't know how to argue it. He breaks it down in such simplistic terms. But what it taught me years later is it actually brought me closer to my faith,
Mm.
because I realized that, okay, I don't have to have the answers.
No.
It's I got to have faith.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot that doesn't make sense, but the
Course.
faith is what for me gets me through.
Understanding faith is like a drop in the bucket. Like what we know relative to what is unknown is, but that's not always how it's presented. A lot of times faith and religion are presented with certitude, and that would be literally impossible to know for certain how ancient people live. That isn't a real thing. So, having some narrative, I think, is a good foundation. But we have to believe. We have
Yeah.
to have faith.
Yeah, and you were you have a master's in seminary,
Yeah.
correct? And then you were a missionary
Oh yeah.
as well. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so it was. I grew up in a very religious household. My parents are pastors and missionaries, so coming up in that environment allowed me to see real everyday people who are very very faithful and deeply religious live normal lives. So I never had this like outsider perception of faith and religion, like, oh, these preachers are up on this pedestal or they're talking about stuff that they don't really live. I've seen people struggle with everyday things, everyday regular problems like everybody else has. So they gave me a lot of good context to explore and look at things deeper, from an academic perspective and from actually getting out and helping people who have no way of, kind of returning that favor whatsoever. Brought me closer to faith because it's a very lonely experience for the most part. Two, there's a lot of human tragedy and struggle that, you kind of inserting yourself into, and it gives me very valuable perspective on how blessed I really am. Sometimes I experience like my own hardships like everyone else, and I think, wow, you know, I've seen real struggle. Like I've seen people really going through very, very almost imperceptibly difficult times, and I'm here to help because I have what I believe to be this religious inspiration to help you, but I don't know what impact I'm having.
Yeah.
And I just have to believe and have faith that whatever presence that I'm having in the moment is somehow meaning something to you or helping you. So it's been deep. It's been good. I think that frames a lot how I do business and interact with people, because that's like I'm able to be around people who are going through very very challenging times, and it's like, okay, I understand that this too shall pass.
Yeah, and you were a missionary in Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
what were you doing there?
beautiful. Yeah, actually, like right outside, we all lived in Puerto Rico. So the community of Bayamon, we're about maybe 30 minutes. I'm going to call it inland. I'm trying to think of the direction, southeast of Bayamon. Kind of like the best way to describe the community uh, would be almost like a Native American reservation. Even though it wasn't that, I think the kind of living standards and like how people are housed was very similar. And many of the same types of issues existed with alcoholism, diabetes, certain types of degenerative diseases are very prevalent. One, it's an island. Two, there's limited food. It's a food desert, even though it's an island. And then there's not a lot of food diversity because people don't have the resources to import a lot of food. So you start to see that manifest in health. Part of what we were doing, or the big part of what we were doing, less about getting people to go to church, more about, providing medical resources and health resources that the government locally just either couldn't provide, or perhaps there wasn't an interest in that small group of people. But, local church people wanted to take an interest and care for them. And, there's young people willing to walk around and help and ask people. So we're free labor to go out and beat the streets. So, that's what I signed up for. And it was amazing. Very hot. I was very, very skinny in those days. So, it was a good time. Met some cool people. Learned how to, exist around people, even though I don't speak their language. And understand, like, just person to person, like, are you okay? Is there something I can help you with? Just look at them and understand. And if they are in distress, like, understand that, even though I can hear it in their voice, and try to get them connected to the help and resources that they really need. So
That was awesome. You're delivering insulin.
yeah. So there was a program, right? Because the core problem is diabetes, right? But what's aggravating the diabetes is something that people would think would be unrelated, and that's kind of like this very faulty electrical system on the island, right? And there's nothing you can really do about it with storms and hurricanes that come through, but obviously in the poorer areas, the infrastructure is nowhere near as strong, and no electricity, no refrigeration, no insulin, diabetes starts to spiral out of control. So that's how that problem begins to magnify, and you literally have to, in some of these compound style, like housing scenarios, literally have to go and just check on people, right? Like seniors, people can't get around. There's not a lot of mobility. You got to kind of knock on the window. Hey, it's me. If you see signs of distress, or you see kids that seem like they're kind of taking care of the house and know that there's no adult around, like, circle back and get some resources in there to help. So, just kind of creating a lot of awareness, getting the insulin to people who really needed it, especially after storms or brownouts on the island, was super important. There's a lot of people are very grateful for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Scott, you have an interesting background too. I mean, your story we could talk for hours about as well. But talk about you lived in Iran when you were a kid, which is a very interesting experience, I guess, for an American that, and especially blonde hair, blue eyes. What was that like, and when did you live there?
I lived up there till I was 9 years old, like almost 5 years. Grew up in Iran. Yep. Only little blonde head kid running around for sure. I got a lot of fond memories. When before you're 9 years old, it's really hard to know what's going on and stuff in the politics of the country. Really didn't get so dramatic, I guess, until 1979 when we left. But yeah, it was definitely different. I didn't speak English, but at home, I had one English class a day in school. So I learned how to write the opposite direction in Farsi. Maybe that's why I'm still so backwards. But I mean, for the most part, it was a good experience for me as a kid. I didn't know any different. So we got to go on a lot of adventures and go see Crusader castles and a lot of old history and cool stuff. It was definitely different. Yeah, it was definitely different than coming back to the States and just seeing how other kids grew up.
Yeah, and then you lived in Lebanon too, right?
I was conceived in Lebanon. My parents lived in Lebanon. They were teachers at the university there, but I never really lived there. We traveled all over the Middle East while we were out there. So a bunch of different countries over there, but not really. We were based out of Tehran.
Was it a culture shock coming back to the U.S. even as a child?
I mean, the culture shock was that all of a sudden my family had to get the hell out. And my parents packed up a bunch of stuff and shipped my younger brother Cade and I off. And, we flew from Tehran to, I think it was from Tehran to Heathrow to New York to Houston at 9 and 6, by ourselves.
Oh, wow.
And that was actually pretty fun. I can remember a lot of that. My brother and I ditched our little little people that were supposed to keep an eye on us and stuff, and got crazy on the planes. I mean, you know me now. You can only imagine at 9. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. My mom got out before my dad, and a lot of Americans don't know the embassy was taken twice. And then my dad got out right before everyone got held hostage over there too. But it was a weird time as a kid. could definitely feel the tension in my family. And it's like, where's dad?
Yeah.
Type of thing.
He got out like in how did your dad get out?
Basically got snuck out by some good Persian people, some good Persian friends helped him get out. And, the people there, same as any other country, right? It's not the people.
Yeah.
It's the governments and what's going on and stuff. I have fond memories of them burning down my school that was named after the Shah of Iran. So I was all for that. And things like that.
You're celebrating the school getting burned when you were a kid?
Little blonde hair kid. Yeah, burn it down, I don't want to go back.
Every 9-year-old's dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a long time ago. So
Yeah.
foggy memories, but lots of memories, lots of stories been told.
Yeah, it's definitely different. And you've been traveling, pretty much your whole life.
Nonstop.
You lived in
17 schools and 7 before I graduated from high school.
That's awesome.
Not really.
Man, it's well. You say it's how
new kid all the time.
make friends.
Yeah, you're the new kid in 4 different high schools. You better figure out how to make friends quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. And then you lived in Brazil for a while?
3 years in Brazil. Yeah. Spent some time all over Europe, all over the States. And that was one thing. I mean, I still have my first passport that I got when I was a little kid, and it has more stamps in it than most normal American adults probably by the time they're 50 years old.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My passport. And then not the new one I have now, but the one before, I filled it up to where they had to add two pages in there. At some point, I need to go count how many countries I've been to. I actually don't know.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be.
I guess that's a flex nowadays. You're supposed to put like every flag in your bio or something.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I see that sometimes. I visited over 19 countries. I'm like, cool story. I did that before I was 12.
Touche. What's your favorite story from Brazil?
Oh, snap. My favorite story from Brazil. Oh my God, too many ones. Favorites. Give it a little, narrow the topic down a little bit for me.
You can go wherever you want. I'll let you go.
All right.
Do the topic.
I'll tell you a good one with Danny Do Nothing and I. So there's this city in this neighborhood in Rio called Cidade de Deus. They made the movie about it. It's like a super dangerous drug lord run one. And Danny had bought a French military Jeep, looked like a mini Hummer when we were living down in Brazil. And we drove that thing everywhere. We went way up into the north, and then we drove almost all the way to the south end of Brazil, and we would stop and do jiu-jitsu and surf all up and down the coast and get in trouble and get in fights. Anyways, one day we're driving through Rio, and we got super lost, right? No Siri back then, no Waze, no nothing. Could barely read the maps, And then all of a sudden we found out, we like turned out and we were like, oh shit, we're in Cidade de Deus. We have no idea how to get out if we're on the road going deeper or if we're on the road going back, And we started to see all the drug dealer dudes covered in chains and everything. And this is a convertible Jeep with 2 blonde guys driving through Brazil. And once we kind of figured out from some of the signs where we were, I was like, Danny, no matter what, don't stop driving, dude. Just keep your eyes straight forward. And then Pete the Greek taught us this stuff. He's like, anytime you get worried in Brazil, you make contact with a Brazilian, just go, give him the thumbs up. So we stopped at a light, and there was all these people looking at him. I just turned every I'm like, what's up? And Danny reached down to his iPod and started putting on some Brazilian funky music that they used to play at all the ghettos and turned it up. I'm like, dude, run the red light. Just go, dude. Just go. We escaped out of that. It was pretty good. But there's too many. There's 3 or 4 movies just in the life and times in Brazil. Most people won't even believe 70% of the stories of what happened down there.
Well, you spent 3 years though, right?
Spent 3 years there. Made the cover of the largest newspaper in there.
What
That put on TV.
tell that story.
Oh man, that's kind of a long one. Well, so where do I start with this one? the short version of the story was basically that I wrote an article about coming down to Brazil and like all the guys meeting all the girls down in Brazil. And it seemed to piss off some of the local jiu-jitsu guys. And what would happen was that Danny and I had this house.
Which guys did it piss off?
The Gracie guys.
Like the Gracie Baja?
Gracie Baja,
Okay.
yeah. And but like a lot of it, like it was just like a cultural thing they didn't really get. So first of all, I was living right outside New York City with Paul 70 when we were in our teens, and we were going to nightclubs, you know, when I was like 15, 16, 17, and we had to learn how to get into New York City nightclubs. And then Danny comes down, and we had this penthouse right by the beach and stuff, and the way we afforded to live down there was to rent out rooms. We were Airbnb before Airbnb existed. And so all these guys would come down and train and stuff. Like one Worlds, I had 17 guys sleeping at my house to compete in Worlds on the mats, on the couches, everywhere. Of course, they come down for vacation. They want to go out and party. They go out, they meet girls. I spoke Portuguese. They didn't. I did a lot of translating. And then even when I didn't have money to go out, they were like, I'll pay for you. I'll pay for you. And so really quickly, I figured out how to get into the nightclubs there. And it's just really by being nice, remembering names, and creating a little reciprocity, bring them some CDs and new music and stuff, tell them how great their parties were. So we started getting into all these, just cutting the line at every nightclub in Brazil. And then, you know, when you have all these guys come stay, they go out, they meet girls, they come back to my house, I see them at the club. I'm easy to spot. I'm like the only blonde guy in the whole nightclub. And so these guys would get tables, and then I'd see groups of girls that were friends of the other guys that came, and they'd be like, can I sit at your table? And I'd be cool. So pretty soon we'd have like 20 girls sitting at our table, and these guys would get pissed. They would see us like walk right into the front of the club. They would go in there, and there would be like 20 girls at the table. And, you know, that basically led to, you know, Gracie Magazine reprinting one of the articles from onthemat.com. But when they reprinted it, it wasn't about going out. They made it really like more nasty and more disrespectful. Like they changed up a lot of the wording to say it on there. Then that got, when that magazine came out, it got picked up by like one of the largest talk radio shows there, and then a morning talk TV show. And somehow this talk TV show found a video of me dancing in a group of girls at this nightclub. So that was on TV. And then Ogia, the biggest newspaper down there, ran a front cover story with my picture holding up a glass of champagne. It said Yankee Conquistador over my head. And they were interviewing all these locals about what they thought about me and stuff. And so it got a little heated there for a minute, man. People were coming up and talking shit to me at restaurants and stuff. But in the end, it just made things worse, because then girls would come up and recognize me and ask me if I was the Yankee Conquistador. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. Sit down at the table. You want a drink?
My God.
So
that's my favorite story there.
That's your favorite
Yankee
story.
Conquistador, yeah.
Yeah. I wish I still had that newspaper, but it disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, you think about, gosh, I mean, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and mixed martial arts was so much different, you know, back then.
Yeah.
You know, back then, if you were to train with another school, you were a crianche, you know, even they call it cross training.
Crianche means trader, by the way.
Yeah, crianche means trader. Even like cross training, like that's what it used to be called. If you're in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and you're training like boxing, it's like cross training. Now it's just all mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
But, you know, even then there was like some beef. Like a lot of the traditional Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools didn't like that. You know, oh, you don't need that.
Oh, yeah, you weren't
enough.
supposed to go train wrestling and stuff.
Nothing. So, yeah, it was, you know, we talked about this the other night with Garth. We were talking with Garth how much everything has changed. And, you know, in some ways for the better. It's more of a sport, but in a lot of ways, you know, it's not as hardcore as it used to be. And, you know, that hardcoreness is kind of what drew, you know, Scott and I to it, I think.
Oh yeah, for
and
sure.
we liked to fight. You know, we weren't going and picking fights, but we definitely were. If there was a bully or whatever, you know, we would throw down.
You think that you guys would get into jiu-jitsu now if you were the same age and you saw it?
Oh yeah, I probably would.
Yeah, probably just be doing MMA.
Yeah.
I don't think, because like Jiu-Jitsu used to be like the gateway drug into MMA,
Yeah.
right? If you couldn't get MMA fights, you were doing no-gi Jiu-Jitsu, maybe gi Jiu-Jitsu tournaments and stuff like that. Eddie hadn't created like, combat Jiu-Jitsu didn't exist and stuff. But when I got into Jiu-Jitsu, it was for street fighting. It was like the best way to win a street fight. And that's what we were training for at house.
Yeah.
We weren't training for tournaments. I fought my first few tournaments. I didn't even know how to score what the points were. Half would be like, if you tap, you win. If you get tapped, you lose. Nobody taps, who cares? Like that was half, And I was just like, I remember I lost the finals in my first tournament by an advantage. I didn't even know what an advantage was.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean you got an advantage? Advantage for what? Oh, you got to your half guard. So, like, you won that because of that,
Yeah, I'd probably do mixed martial arts. I think you're right. Because I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because Royce Gracie, I was like, oh my God, it's Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu, this is a style. And but I mean, that was just to fight. All I ever wanted to do was fight.
Right.
And so, now it would be, mixed martial arts. Back then too, it wasn't, the styles.
It wasn't mixed martial arts yet.
It wasn't.
It was Vale Tudo.
It was. And so like, putting the things in place, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai kickboxing, and wrestling, that was kind of a theory, like, I think this is what works the best. And it turned out, those things are the main things. And now you can mix in, some cool karate kicks and some other styles now, a little judo. But
we probably wouldn't even be training in the gi now. Because back then it was only you had to train in the gi to get good at no gi.
Yeah.
But those days are long gone.
Yeah, people are just going straight
to no gi.
Yeah, that was all another thing that was a big debate back then.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta train in the gi. Gotta train in the gi. It's all about the gi. And of course, I mean, the gi did me well.
Of course.
Still love the gi, but
Yeah.
if it was today,
Yeah, wouldn't do it. To talk about, I guess we've had the hospital now in Mexico for it'd be 8 years this last August. Been going down there for 9 consistently. A lot of people don't realize, how that has evolved and everything that's gone into it. We probably can't get to everything.
Yeah.
But I guess from your perspective, talk about how things started and how we ended up here.
Yeah. So, just even engaging Mexico itself was just a wild concept, but we were very open to it because we knew that there were things that American patients needed that they just simply couldn't get, right? Like there's just no way unless you went to another country. I had gone to this medical tourism conference in Miami. And
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember calling you. I was like, Ed, like this is amazing. There's so many different countries here. There's all of this cool science and stuff. Everybody's got the same problem. They don't know how to get people on the internet. These hospitals have a ton of money. They're spending a ton of money clearly on this event. And everything that I'm sitting through is the same subject. How can we source patients from the United States to go to other places? I was like, man, you can already do this. This is easy. So, I kind of gave us like this high leverage point of, hey, here's one thing that we can do better than everybody else in this room. And, that is still true. But that I think I don't think we realized how truly beneficial it really was at the beginning. They had the operational bandwidth and all of the people and processes in place to, build a healthcare organization. We had the ability to get patients faster than anyone and more in a more cost-effective way. So, approaching it with that in your back pocket, knowing that, hey, I can get the patients, but I need a place. I need a team. I need everything that the patients need. I need those things to provide them. And with the resources that we had at that time, I mean, we had to leave America too. Yeah. We didn't have the money if we would have tried to do this in America, we probably couldn't have pulled it off with the money that we had. So, negotiation and hard work wins the day.
Yeah.
That's really what it came down to. And, starting CHIPSA, with a kind of inherited skeleton crew of people, and going through, the typical heartache associated with acquiring a business that maybe isn't doing as great, but has people there. Some of them are committed, and many of them are not. And turning that over and turning the whole hospital around. We didn't know what we were getting into. None of us had been in healthcare before, so that was interesting. I think another advantage we uncovered was the fact that we hadn't had that healthcare background led us to look at the operation, completely differently, and focus more on the patient experience and creating something that was above and beyond just providing, treatments and care that people couldn't get access, but an experience.
Mhm.
Right? I hear hospitals now talk about experience, but then you go to a hospital and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? It's not an experience. We actually made it an experience and continue to make that the focal point of the treatments. It's not just coming down and getting stem cells or getting, innovative cancer treatments. It's an experience.
Yes.
It is an experience. And, not only a life-changing experience, it could be a life-saving experience.
Yeah.
Not just with the treatments, but I believe the frame of mind that we've been able to help people get into to move forward is super important.
You never hear anybody in America say, "I can't wait to come back."
You never.
But we always have people,
Ever.
at least half the people booking their second trip before they've even left
Yep.
their first one.
Yeah.
Nobody ever wanted
Rants and
every
raves.
time I leave a hospital in America, I'm like, never want to see this
People
place
want to
again.
refer other people to that never happens.
Yeah, it never happens. Well, yeah, and to us, it's kind of common sense. We want to provide a great experience for people.
Yeah.
Life is about the experience that you
Right.
provide or that you're living through, and it might as well be a good one from start to finish, or the best possible. I mean, there's obviously hiccups with 200 plus employees and
Of course.
all the patients that we have coming in, and
course.
logistically, certain things, getting people from place to place. But, I would say we probably have on the stem cell side, 95 to 97% of the people leave really happy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, higher than that.
Higher than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Me, I'm on the floor every day. It's 100% a lot of weeks.
Yeah.
For sure. Maybe once in a month you get like one person who's probably a headache anyways. But nah, we're way higher than that. It's 100% almost every week.
Yeah. That's
for sure.
That's the
I'd
experience,
say
and having
90% of people book their return before they leave.
yeah, that's experience, and then having
90%.
an amazing product. And we can get into the product that we have,
Mm.
in the end of what we're about to be doing. But and really, we've always said too, patience before profits.
Yeah.
That's an interesting place to come from when it comes to specifically, well, just healthcare in general.
Right.
But we've always put the patients first.
Of course.
Taken our licks because of it, but
course.
I think in the end, it's made it. We were able to build it because we weren't focused on making money.
Squeezing every dollar out of every single scenario.
Exactly.
Because providing experience isn't free.
Right.
It's not free. As much as I would like it to be free, it's not. That costs money. And to build a business and to say that the experience is just as much a part of the treatment as the treatment,
Yes.
the medication, you have to take that cost into consideration and build around that. And build a profitable business with an amazing experience inextricably linked to what the patients get. That's what makes us different and special, in my opinion. One of the things.
Yeah. No,
And the
absolutely.
staff,
Yeah.
and training the staff on how to be
Yeah.
a part of that experience. That's been a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
People
been
see
a lot
the
of
end
work.
product.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, if you only knew what it took to get here.
Right.
Your staff is amazing. Yeah, you weren't here for the
Right,
99 people we cut before this
right,
one.
right. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Get them. Hire slow, fire fast,
Dan
Yep.
Kennedy.
Yeah.
and I think it's important because you got to get the right people in there. And it's interesting because I'll be at a restaurant or hotel or whatever, and I'll see somebody, the employees, treating people not in the best way, and I think to myself, if I ever saw one of our employees treating
Right,
somebody
yeah.
like that, like I would fire them on the spot. Not putting up with that shit.
Yeah.
And that's our people treat people good. Like, how would you treat your family? How would you treat your loved ones, everybody should be treated like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like the staff genuinely cares and, tries to create that experience for every single person.
Oh, they do for sure. Yeah. I hear it all the time. Staff goes out of the way, and they really do. And I think also, we treat our staff really good.
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't treat your staff really well, how do you expect them to treat your patients or your customers really well? So
That's true.
Yeah.
We're not bad bosses.
No.
try not to be.
No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. We do treat them really good. And, it's almost, you kind of create like a family, experience.
Yeah.
It is a family. It's a second family,
Oh yeah. Christmas party.
Christmas party every year.
I spend a lot more time with them than I do my family, so that's for sure.
That's true.
Yep.
No, we throw a Christmas party every year.
Yeah. It is a blast.
Tell them about that.
Like a combination of The Price is Right
Yes.
with a nice dinner,
Right.
and a nightclub
Yeah,
all
that's
in
a
one.
perfect explanation.
with a comedy show in the middle.
Right. And possibly costumes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
possibly some costumes. I love the Christmas party. If I could be doing something else, I'd be a game show host.
Yep.
Right? Like, I love giving away prizes.
You'd be good at it, too.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. I get excited because they get excited.
Yeah.
I get pumped up and just always, have a little too much to drink and just give away more trips because why not? Everybody works hard.
Yeah.
They put a lot of effort into providing this great experience and taking care of our patients. So, they should share in the success as well. So, do it in a celebratory way.
Yeah. So for those listening, what we do, we throw a Christmas party every year. We try to make it better and better every year.
Every year.
And we have a raffle where every employee gets a prize. And these are prizes like we give away, I don't know how many free trips to
11 last year.
Cancun or Cabo. Give away 11 trips last
11
year.
trips last year.
TVs, air fryers. Deddrick is an air frying chef
course.
genius.
The king.
They love those air
They
fryers.
love the air
That's
fryers.
crazy.
Hey, what's not to love?
Yeah. I mean, and it's a great time to blow off steam.
Yeah.
I think this year is probably less steam to blow off because we haven't been doing, the cancer treatments
Mhm.
during the renovation. And you think about how heavy that work is. I can feel a less stress by not doing that right now.
Yeah.
Not that I don't love it and passionate about it, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
so by the time we get to the Christmas party, it's been a long year.
Especially coming up right before Thanksgiving and stuff, where everybody's trying to hurry up and get in before,
Yep.
get healthy before the holidays. It's always tough.
Yeah, it was has been some heavy years over that. Let's go back. So, Scott, what's your experience kind of starting the hospital? What's your version of it?
Well, you guys were already hard at it. I'm the Johnny come lately, right? I just remember you were in Vegas and you were like, hey, I'm going to try to rent this hospital down in TJ. You want to go? And let's go, driving down to LA. And, like a lot of our patients didn't know what to expect of TJ. I wasn't scared. I mean, it couldn't be Pakistan, couldn't be Brazil, right? But it's a little intimidating when you first drive in there. And, went down there. The hospital is way nicer than I expected it to be because it had been closed for a minute. Didn't know what to expect. And that first trip down there was interesting. We went and got lobster afterwards with the doctor guy. And it was an adventure. I didn't know what to expect. I don't think any of us knew what to expect
absolutely.
at all. It's hard to believe it's already been 10 years. What do we used to say?
Yeah.
The days feel like
Days
weeks
take
and
forever.
the weeks fly by.
Yeah, something
the
like
days
that.
feel
Yeah.
like weeks and the weeks fly by. or
The weeks
something
feel like,
that. I
yeah,
just feel like the longest days of work I've ever had in my life, but then the week would be gone like that. Boom.
immediately.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had so many intense, experiences over the years, as people can imagine,
Yeah.
running a cancer hospital. But even from the very beginning, I remember, some of the first patients that are still alive today, by the
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Edward,
Ryan Lelf,
Ryan
Yeah.
Love,
Um,
Eric Vincelet,
Yeah.
yeah.
Eric
A
Vincelet,
bunch of them.
yeah. And those are the, within the first 4 patients, terminal, hey, you got
Right.
6 months or a year to live.
Yeah.
And they're still kicking, almost 9 years
8
later.
years later,
Right.
9 years later.
Not just alive, but thriving.
Thriving. They're all
Yeah.
thriving. Yeah, both of them are
Right.
thriving.
Thriving.
Yeah. Ryan was an interesting one because, he initially came down and he was all in on the treatments. And he was very much focusing on the diet. And he went to one fast food binge when he got home, and the cancer basically just blew up on him.
Mhm.
It was pretty wild. I remember getting the call, and I was actually he came back down, and we're like, he had the fluid in his stomach. I mean, his old
Mhm.
pictures. And I remember talking to his wife, at the desk, and I basically told her, I'm not sure he's gonna make it out of here. It's very touch and go. But to see him get
Now he's
through it,
Now he's a pickleball
he's a
champ.
professional
Pickleball champ.
pickleball player.
Yeah.
I mean, that
Business
guy is
coaching,
thriving.
He's crushing it. Yeah.
They added to their family.
Yeah, they have a new
Yeah,
baby.
a
another
little
kid.
arrow.
They traveled around the country
Yeah. Love
on
to see
in an RV.
Yep.
Yeah,
Ryan has the never give up attitude.
he does.
Yep.
Like, not to say that everybody could survive with that attitude, but very few people loved and wanted to be there for his family like he did, where he would just fight through. I mean, when he came back that one time, I couldn't look at him.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to see the fear on my face. Same as you. I'm like, I don't think he did.
Yep.
When seeing Caroline, what a trooper.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Caroline is Ryan's wife. She's stuck through,
Yeah.
I mean, thick and
Amazing
thin,
family.
Yeah.
just battled.
Yeah.
Same thing with Eric Vincelette. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's another great
support
example.
system. Great family.
Yeah.
That is a key.
Yeah. And then, from Eric, Isha
Mm.
came down. Isha was Eric's sister-in-law. And then she lived with us for like a year and a half, just helping us, getting everything ready at the hospital. I mean, we lived at the hospital for the first 6 months.
Yeah.
Was it only 6? I felt like it was longer.
I think it was 6.
Seemed longer. It felt longer,
Yeah.
but I don't think it was longer.
Really?
It
I always felt like I always tell the story at 8 or 9 months. So if I told you 8 or 9 months, that's what it felt like to me.
It might have been. I always say 6, but it was long enough.
Yeah.
And, I remember, we would, I would get up at 4 in the morning and work till about 10 o'clock at night. I would take modafinil,
Oh yeah.
the limitless drug, because you can get that over the counter in Mexico.
Yep.
So I would take my modafinil. We all might have taken some modafinil.
Oh yeah.
I tried it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then go to bed or rather get done working about 10 at night. And I'd be so amped up, I'd go straight to the bar, have a couple drinks just to
Bar mat.
bar mat, relax my nerves, go back to the hospital and sleep at 11:30. So I was getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And then,
Charging it again.
we were charging.
Yeah.
And we all did similar
Yeah.
schedules. Scott doesn't drink, but it was a
I
grind.
think I had a
back
few
in the day.
drinks at Bar Mat back in the day. On some of those nights.
Right.
I think there were some rough nights
Right.
there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I've some of my favorite nights at the hospital though were on the weekends using those. Remember those hot baths for the patients, or to bring the body temperature up.
Yeah.
Get the iPad out with the movie, just be sitting in those hot baths at midnight. I'd go to the kitchen and we have the best orange juice you've ever had in your whole life. If you ever come down for stem cells,
Yeah.
we had the best orange juice ever. I'd make a giant thing of that orange juice and then go sit down in the hot bath and watch Netflix.
Yeah, those baths. Yeah, those baths were
So
for the hyperthermia.
Mm.
And, hyperthermia is a treatment. It's actually I believe it's even a acknowledged treatment by the FDA, but where you heat up the body, and the heated up body weakens cancer cells, and allows other medications to work. But we had the old school hyperthermia before all the new technology, where they would heat up the tubs, and that's what they were doing in Germany, where Dr. Josef Issels was.
Mm.
That was one of his treatments, along with the Coley's toxins. Along with, he brought in the dendritic cells and the peptide vaccines. But a lot of people don't know that Dr. Joseph Issels came to CHIPSA in 1996.
Right.
He was over 90 years old at the time, and he spent his last 2 years of life at CHIPSA bringing those technologies, which is really how CHIPSA got I'm going to call it more modern immunotherapies. The super modern immunotherapies are the ones like the checkpoint inhibitors that are now FDA approved.
Mhm.
But you figure 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago,
That was it.
there were
These
no
days.
FDA approved immunotherapy treatments. And these treatments were working for some patients, and it was undeniable because they were seeing the cancers go away. And so it's, it's interesting kind of the history that the hospital has that, with that as well, because, the same bathtub you were in it was truly a, legitimate, kind of a, adjunct cancer therapy. It was definitely supportive.
Yeah. Interesting to see how we've added our own chapters to the narrative of CHIPSA, right? Because we can go back to these historic points in like the mid 90s. Here's this cancer research legend like Dr. Issels, right? And then here we are, right? 25 years later, writing chapters into the story of CHIPSA, going, starting back in the 70s all the way into now. There's no way I thought I'd ever be doing something like but here we are.
Yeah, I mean the history of
It's
CHIPSA
amazing.
is amazing. I mean, the Survivor reunion. We did a Survivor reunion in 2018 where we brought
Mhm.
back people that were, 20, 30, 40 years cancer free.
Right.
And some of these people are just doing the Gerson therapy,
That's it.
and it's undeniable. We had their medical records. We went through everything, and you think about Charlotte Gerson,
Mhm.
founded CHIPSA. It was the Gerson Hospital for the longest time. They brought in a lot of the ozone therapies
Yep.
as well. And then, in 1996, there was a split, and that's when Issels came in. And it really was a, kind of best of both worlds where they were focusing on the diet and all the other immunotherapies that Issels was doing. And, here we are 25, 30 years later, and we're getting ready or we're not getting ready, we're building a genomics lab. We
Mhm.
might have, one of the most advanced diagnostic labs out there, definitely in Mexico. But I mean, if someone has a solid tumor cancer, I don't believe there's any better place to come to get their tumor tested. That's what we are going to have come December when the lab's built. It's a great evolution. And then, of course, our cancer vaccine lab,
Right.
the different scientists that we're bringing in, high-level PhDs, and a good amount of them, not only from our scientific advisory board, but, people that we're bringing on
Right. Yeah.
on full time. Did y'all ever think it was going to come to all of this?
I didn't know when, but I thought that, for the type of evolution that was possible, there had to be a change in scope, right? Doing what we are doing and getting the results that we are getting, regardless of how good they are, was never satiate any of us, right? Because it can always be better. So I think, did I think that we would be here? Yeah, at some point. Just I didn't know when, right? Because we would always want to push the envelope of, either advanced knowledge of disease, diagnostics, treatment, or some combination of the three. And that requires just fundamental change in how we do things and who's in the room. And it's happening, right? Material, space usage, everything. The redesign the whole thing to
Adding a
to-
sixth floor.
Yeah.
Adding a fifth,
right, yeah.
half of a fifth floor and
Right.
full sixth floor.
Yeah. So that's been a huge change. But I'm not surprised though. I'm not surprised that, we've been talking since the very beginning about this world class not only experience but treatment. And while we've had that, we could always take it up another notch, take it up another level, and that's what we're doing. That's what we've been doing the whole time. So
What about you?
Well, I had faith in my fearless leader that you were going to put together an exceptional team, because no matter what whether it was fight teams, marketing teams, whatever team it was, you're going to find the best people to put on your team. And I never really knew, where it would go exactly where it was. I just had faith that we're going to find the best stuff, and most importantly, the best people. And so And everything we do, we evolve fast.
Right.
You know, it's like sometimes when stuff breaks for us, we're like, okay, good. Now's our chance to build it back the best that we can. We don't put Band-Aids on anything.
Right.
We're like, okay, this broke. That sucks. But now, how are we going to make this badass so it doesn't break again? So that's kind of the way I always looked at it, you know?
Yeah, but like think about like when we were in the trenches, you know, living full, like, you know, we're there now a lot, but we're not there like we used to be.
Right.
No,
You know, we used to be there 95, 98% of the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, we'd see our family a couple times a year, maybe, but hopefully they'd come out and visit us.
Right.
But it was, you know, you think about the success that we've had and ask like, what has caused that? And there's a lot of things, but I think in the beginning, it was the fact that we've lived together now for almost 9 years as well. We would wake up, drink coffee together, talk about our day, what we're going to be doing. We'd charge into the hospital. We would get done with work, generally late. We'd go back. We'd either have dinner or, there, or we'd go get some food.
Yeah.
Susanna's was always great in Rosarito. And so, but we talked about work, you know, so we were working 7 days a week. And this was many times 7 days a week. I mean, how many Saturdays and Sundays were we at the hospital? I mean, almost all of them.
All of them, yeah.
More than we were.
Yeah.
Right.
By a long shot.
I mean, it was non-stop 7 days a week, you know, probably 15 to 18 hours a day for the first 4 years.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Or 4 years since open. That doesn't even count before we open, how much time we put in there.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was, you know, so that's the part where, I mean, I never thought we were going to fail.
Right.
There were some really, really tough times. A lot of times that, I mean, if you don't question things when you own a cancer hospital and you're there with the patients and you have empathy and love for them, you're experiencing death and sadness and grief all the time. If you don't question things, then there's something wrong with you. But, you know, after I got done feeling sorry for myself, maybe for a minute, or, you know, feeling bad about whatever that was going on, it's like, okay, back to the patients, back to, you know, there's no way we can allow this to fail.
Right. Yeah, the mission has always been one with very high integrity. So it's, you know, easy to commit to something like this. That doesn't mean it's easy. Easy to commit to because of the goal and what we're striving towards, but not easy to actually execute. And you're right, it does cause you to question things constantly, but that's what we should be doing. We should be questioning things constantly, because if we are not, we fall into that bucket that we talked about earlier of the people who aren't questioning, right? And that's, I think, a big driver of why our experience is so good, why are our treatments so cutting edge, why is the diagnostic going to be on the next level? Well, we're asking questions.
Right.
You know, we're not settling for all of this. And those questions, in many ways, derive from those early years of being in the trenches and being there with people and experiencing things. And how can we make this better? Right? Like, how can we really make this whole thing better as a core question? Not better in the sense of like better for us, but just a better situation for all the way around. And I think that from there springs forth all these other scientific questions and process questions and people questions that allow us to build the best team, the best processes, the best experience, the best science, the best medicine. Those are rooted from like real human experiences and asking questions in the moment. Like, how can we avoid this? How can we make sure that people don't suffer like this anymore? So I think it's important for us to have had that experience and keep asking questions, even though that we're not in the trenches as it were, or at least not as deep. To continue to ask questions as if we are.
Yeah. No,
And I think that's very important for us.
we do ask a lot of questions,
Yep.
and, you know, are always looking to evolve and make things better. You know, you think about one of the first big moves I think that we made was bringing on an MD Anderson, a former MD Anderson oncologist to Mexico.
Yeah.
Where we had Dr. Iacoboni for a year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I actually really liked him.
I like
I'm
that.
missing. We got to reach out to him and see how he's doing.
Yeah.
I think Buddy was
He'd
cool.
trip out at how far we've come.
Yeah,
But and that was to bring in lower doses of chemo,
Mhm.
but still do the chemo. And he had seen it for years. He was battling. I could tell. You could just tell by talking to him. 40-year oncologist or so, and he was questioning. Is chemo
Right.
the right thing to do for these patients? And when you go through school, and I'm going to call it like you're indoctrinated into a system, chemo, and then you realize that I just made this person live 6 months longer, but they had 3 months of awful quality of life. Is that worth it? And he had to do that over and over and over again. And I learned a lot from him as far as like an oncologist's mind, the way they look at things. Remember, he said to me one time, "What do these people expect?" He was just venting, but he's like, "Do they expect me to experience 20 deaths a week?" And he was talking about that helpless feeling he had, but why he was afraid to really connect and give his heart, in that way to the patients. And there's some oncologists that can do it, but a lot of people say how cold oncologists are, and I think you got to give them some grace because they've been through a lot. Maybe some of them shouldn't be an oncologist at this point,
Right.
but they're human, and when you're going through the sadness of seeing somebody with cancer that you're trying to treat and nothing's working and they're going to die, and you have all the emotions that are attached to that, I feel bad for a lot of the oncologists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lonely, seems like I'm not an oncologist, obviously, but it seems like one of those that's like, very, very lonely type of profession in a lot of ways, especially if you're in an environment where you have very limited options of which you can prescribe, or maybe even ideologically you believe that there are only certain options. That nobody wants to have fewer options, right? Like people want more options, and when it's life or death, you want to have as many as possible. And the repetitive nature of cancer and how prevalent it is in our society, like you're constantly seeing people over and over and over again, and you have so few options and tools to work with. I get it. Like you said, give them some grace, regardless of how they feel or might think about alternative approaches to things or different approaches. You have to almost acknowledge at least what they've done and the attempts that they're making, because I have to believe that they all got into it because they wanted to help people and save lives, right? So
Nobody's walked a mile in their shoes,
right, exactly.
man.
So
Those first couple of patients that when they pass away, it's not that each one doesn't hurt now, but it's like a different. You're like, I'm more prepared for it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like when the first one flop around in the bed and just cry for weeks. That helpless. Wow, what else could we have done? But after a while, you're like, I know we've tried everything we could try, and I can feel for Icaboni too. All the doctors. I feel like people are so quick to dump on their doctor. I mean, I saw so much even at CHIPSA, right? It's like I always say, oh yeah, when somebody goes into remission and everything, it's always praise Lord. But somebody dies, it's your doctor killed my son, daughter, mom, whatever.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, So it's you definitely see how, and like we don't even see anywhere near the number of patients your average oncologist sees.
Right.
You might see in a month what they see in a week.
Yeah.
Maybe even they probably even see more.
And that whole meal thing where you just see patients and you get 15 minutes with the patients.
right.
And that's a different approach. I think it was interesting for Dr. Iacoboni too, because he, came from the traditional, conventional side, and we are very personal with our patients. We're talking about the earlier, the stem cell side. 99% or so are happy. With cancer, it's a lot harder to keep, those people happy. Even if it's just because they're going through so much. I mean, we have people that don't know. We have 2 full-time psychologists. We brought in a music program called Hope Song that John Satterfield ran, and where 2 musicians from Nashville would come every week to play for the patients, and those musicians from Nashville, and they helped tremendously. I can't imagine going through those years without something like Hope Song.
Right.
What do you think about that impact actually on the hospital?
Brought so much joy into the hospital.
Yeah. I think that there's a cascading effect also with the team that's providing the care because they're hearing the music also. Right. So, imagine coming in to work every day and you've got this very high stress, very emotionally charged occupation as a care provider. But then you got this soothing music to kind of relax you. So that adds to not just the patient experience, but also to the team experience of like, this is a really desirable place to be, even though the nature of the work that we're doing is unbelievably challenging.
Right.
This is still a pretty cool job to have. And being able to pull that off in and of itself is amazing without having to like do a bunch of crazy incentives. Like people genuinely enjoy what they do
Yep.
and providing the care, even though it's challenging and all the things we just talked about. Having the music there I think it changed the whole vibe in the hospital for every single person that was there. Patients, nurses, doctors, everybody was impacted by it. And that's what art does. It changes things. So, having those artists there to do it in live and in person is amazing.
It was. And we had Isha making the art as well.
Yeah.
She's an artist, great artist, and she painted the whole hospital. She made, art paintings on glass and actually a bunch of different canvas and glass.
Yeah. And she did the art classes. And when we had patients who were musicians, they got to get in on the action. And it was very powerful.
You think about, we also had Power of the Mind. We
Yeah.
still have Power of the Mind.
Yeah.
That's another, and this is for cancer. Like, you think about if
Yeah.
you're going into the fight of your life, you better get all the boxes checked as far as things that you need to be successful. And if you're not focused on your mental health
Right.
and, getting your mind focused for defeating it, you're probably not going to win, or if you are, it's going to be a lot harder because you didn't know that you need to get in a specific mental space.
Such an important part. I remember when we were putting new TVs in all the rooms, and Dr. Lopez was like, left the TVs out of the rooms, the patients would be healthier.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good advice there.
Like, good luck getting Americans not to watch TV.
No, it makes me think about the funny complaints of the TV stations in Spanish. Like, well, we are in
Oh, yeah.
Mexico.
We're in Mexico.
Yeah.
Everything's in Spanish.
We would get those.
I'll never forget the lady that wouldn't stop complaining about the color of the walls in the kitchen. I mean, in the cafeteria. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny how people can find things to complain about.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of people that kind of have that, that loop of finding everything that's wrong. But for the most part, I think that the experience that we provide, go back to experience, helps bring people out of that because we really focus on shifting their mindset to one of being negative to that of being positive. We talk about the importance of positivity in the group because, like their cancer, negativity can spread like a cancer.
Oh, yeah.
And, that's a different way of thinking in a hospital. So, we would have a 3-week program, and things are going to change with the new iteration of CHIPSA, the new name and everything. But in that 3 weeks, you got to make sure people's, they're not infecting the other patients with negativity.
Yeah.
So we focused a lot on, mindset and getting people in that good headspace.
We had to.
Right.
No, we had
Really?
to.
Really. And I think with that, it shows to the patient, because we can provide lip service to things like patient experience and caring, but we really do go the extra mile.
Oh, yeah.
We really have put programs and things in place to get you more time with your doctor, to help you get in the right headspace, to confront your disease and win. We really are actually doing these things, not just talking about them, but doing them. And when we look at the feedback that patients would give about their previous healthcare experiences before CHIPSA, I think if we could find a common denominator about it all, is they all felt like a number.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And we've done the exact opposite of that.
Yes.
They can tell that, no matter what, you're not a number. Right. We're doing everything we can to make sure that you're not a number. Right. So I think that creates a certain type of community and connection that they're looking for. When you get some news about it, some healthcare disease or whatever, you're looking for a connection, but a lot of times it's not there. The system isn't set up in most places for it to be there,
Mm-hmm.
right? No matter how the economics, there's a bunch of different reasons why, but at CHIPSA, it's different. You're not a number, and we mean that.
Yeah,
and
for
you and
sure.
you know that.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful.
It is. It's interesting. The beauty that comes out of treating people like human beings.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. What a novel idea.
Right. Imagine that.
Treat them with love like human beings, and they're the individual, that they are, and it goes a long way. And people, I mean, if people were to say what's really different about us, that's one of the main things that
Mm-hmm.
people point out is that they weren't treated like a number.
Yep.
I think the way that the healthcare system is in the United States, and actually throughout probably the rest of the world,
Mm.
they're so used to their models being one way that they don't think outside the box. And healthcare really does need to be recreated. It needs to be
Mhm.
recreated in America for sure.
Okay.
But the lack of focus on mental health and just the power of the mind, it could be the most important thing that someone has that fixes as they're going through something like this.
Yeah.
Just the focus on health.
Right.
Period.
In general, right?
In general. We saw that in COVID, right? Oh, yeah, your diet, exercise, none of that matters.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, you look at for COVID, the causes, like the leading causes of death, the commonalities amongst those that survived. Physical activity was number one. Obesity was number two. So how active people were determined whether they were going to survive COVID more than anything. And, during COVID, of course, they told people to stay in their houses,
Mhm.
don't go out, really crushing mental health as well.
Right.
Yeah, anybody thinks diet doesn't matter has never tried to be an athlete.
Right.
Right.
At least not a high level
Right.
athlete.
Yeah. It's all
No
super,
way.
super important. That's something that, we've done different, obviously. I mean, we had to with the history of the hospital, the Gerson therapy. And for those that don't know, Gerson therapy it was invented, call it, by Max Gerson, and Albert Schweitzer, the Nobel Prize winner, said that Gerson could be the biggest genius of his time. And Gerson put a diet together initially for his migraines, but it evolved into what we had, which was 13 fresh pressed organic juices a day, 5 coffee enemas, a number of supplements like pancreatic enzymes and those type of things. And the problem with Gerson therapy, we've all seen it work.
Oh, yeah.
We've all done it and experienced it.
Mm,
I mean,
oh,
it's
yeah.
one of those things that you're on day 4 and, conventional medicine will say, oh, there's no such thing as a detox, or, oh, that stuff's not real. Like when you're like, body odor's awful because the toxins are coming out of your pores. I had a little wart fall off of my finger day 4, which was wild. Something's happening. And then, of course, when you see it with the patients, some of the patients that just did the diet, they didn't want anything else, and they're having these big regressions in their cancer. How is that happening? Is that not real?
Right.
Like, yes, it's anecdotal, but it's real.
So it matters to that person.
Right.
Still matters to that person,
Right.
especially when they were told they had no more options left
Right.
in the United States or Canada or wherever they were.
Right.
You could always see it, like when the patients came in, got a bunch of good food, their skin color changes. They're
Mhm.
not that gray, pasty looking, their light in their eyes comes back.
Yeah.
It's obvious what Just Diet can do.
Right. And I think that, it's we downplay the effect that, some of the standard treatments for especially cancer, the side effects that they have on a patient's overall health. Right? Like, even if it is impacting the cancer in some way, it's probably very significantly negatively impacting the patient in every other possible way.
Sure.
Right? And I think that some of it is just like getting patients as healthy as possible, is one of the keys to fighting cancer, right? Is seeing patients come in, like you said, it would almost seem miraculous in such a short period of time, people who looked like physically so sick,
Mhm.
and they look normal, right? Like walking out the door, uh, we have to believe that that has some sort of impact on there. That
Sure.
I'm not a doctor or anything, but it just seems like you know healthier people have a better chance of living and surviving most things.
That's kind of common sense, right?
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
imagine trying to run a marathon. They're passing out Snickers and Dr. Peppers the whole way.
Right. So
You think about the hospital food at the other hospitals. I mean, we go through, when the cancer sites open, about 300,000 pounds of raw organic fruits and vegetables a year.
Yeah.
Each patient's taking in between 15 to 20 pounds a day.
Yep.
And that has, an impact, whether people like to believe it or not. And now I think, the evolution of where we're going, we're changing the name of CHIPSA to the Translational and Advanced Medical Center, TAM Center. I think that name encompasses, what we are and what we're doing. And we're not going to be doing Gerson therapy anymore. We'll still let patients do what they want, but it's not going to be on the website. We're not going to be talking about, come here for, Gerson therapy as one of the treatments. And, it's largely because, scientifically there isn't, there aren't good studies. And, people can say, well, why don't you study it? Well, not that easy.
Yeah.
Number one thing that we would face with Gerson therapy is patient compliance. Most patients can't do it. Most patients can't stop their entire life and have a caretaker to help them make these 13 fresh pressed organic juices a day and do 5 coffee enemas a day. Can't do it. And, two, if you were to design a study like that, how would you manage patient compliance on what they do? You say, oh, well, see, it didn't work. Well, 95% of the patients didn't do it. So it's not, and of course, if patients do it fully, they still might not get better. It's not like a magic bullet cure. But, and from our perspective, I think, it's not worth that. Not worth that battle to try to prove that Gerson therapy is one thing or another. We know what it does, but we've evolved kind of past that. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, not like we're gonna have unhealthy food when we reopen,
Well, yeah.
but it won't be as big of a focus on it.
Yeah.
And diet's tough. Some of the patients, man, I can't always say that I would have the willpower to stick with it. It's hard.
It is. It was interesting with my mom because she was, one of our first patients, came in a wheelchair, left 3 weeks later walking, and is still doing great to this day. She just had a hip replacement a month ago, but she didn't break her hip. She would, I mean, she'll be back up here real soon. But, she stuck with it. I mean, my dad helped. They're retired, but she stuck with it, hardcore for 4 months. The first 4 months she didn't miss a beat. She was doing, and she loved the coffee enemas. One of the interesting things about the coffee enemas, if you remember, my mom had a rash from basically head to toe when she came in initially. It was attacking her organs, and it's just a rash everywhere. And, the rash was one of the last things to fully go away. And as she was doing the coffee enemas towards the end, the rash would come on as she was doing the coffee enema, and then it would leave when the coffee enema was done.
Wow.
So, it's pretty darn interesting, but she stuck to it and she got so healthy. I mean, went from being debilitated with rheumatoid arthritis. One of the worst cases, you can't find a worse picture of my mom's hands and feet online of someone with rheumatoid arthritis. And it's destroyed her hands and feet. But, too bad she didn't get this before it actually did that destruction on her.
Right.
She stuck with it. And, yes, Coley's toxins, I think that was, it obviously was a part of it. But, I mean, the diet to me was even more important.
Right. Yeah, she got amazing results.
So, but yeah, it would be hard to do if you had a life. Of course, it's life or death with cancer, though.
Yeah.
Much
People figured it out.
people figured it out.
It's all about how bad you want to win. And another thing is what you were talking about. It's just like when people do therapies that really beat up your body, it's just so much harder to fight.
Yeah.
When what's supposed to be healing you is making you feel terrible. So difficult.
Yeah. I mean, and hopefully that's changing right now with the conventional treatments, whereas, they're not using as much chemo. The checkpoint inhibitors, they won a Nobel Prize for those 2018. checkpoint inhibitors are a form of immunotherapy like Keytruda or Opdivo or Yervoy, that have really been a game changer in oncology because people are getting long-lasting cures from those things. Things like lung cancer that
Mhm.
people generally wouldn't survive longer than 15 months. With those, they've really extended life and have cured some patients. Interestingly enough, we would see results with lung cancer patients,
Yeah.
almost every time. And I think that now that the checkpoint inhibitors are out there, patients are they've done that before they've come to us. But before those were really popular, we were seeing with the immunotherapies, lung cancer, melanoma
Mhm.
specifically, we saw a lot of melanomas go away. B-cell follicular lymphoma, we had really good with. Some sarcomas. I mean, there's a couple sarcoma patients that I think it's leiomyosarcoma. I might say that wrong, but I just found out a patient. He's 5 years out. It was the patient that I believe he brought in his instrument, like a trumpet or
Oh, the
something.
guy that left the trumpet behind?
I think it was that guy.
Yeah, okay.
I can't remember his name, but he's still alive.
Awesome.
I
Wow.
remember telling Sarah initially, I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be a tough case. This patient, might pass in the hospital,
Right.
and please, prepare the family, or if he needs to stay longer, it's going to be a tough case." And sure enough, Sarah messaged a few months ago and sent a picture with this guy, like still alive. Like,
Wow. It's amazing.
how many of those have we,
Hot.
So many. I try
Yeah.
not to take it for granted,
right?
Yeah.
right? Like because it happens so frequently, you forget that it's miraculous,
Yes.
Yeah.
right?
That's funny you said, because I remember like we'd have patients that come in wheelchairs and leave walking and be like, and then after a while, I got to be like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
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 You
So
know,
it
like,
wasn't a surprise to
he
us.
wasn't,
Right.
yeah. It was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. That's been an interesting thing with the doctors over the years is, they expect the results, but sometimes you have to remind them, hey, you do realize this stuff isn't supposed to be working.
Right.
Right.
You have
Right.
tumors shrinking. They're like, of
Yeah.
course. I mean, that's good that they expect it,
Yeah.
but at the same time, it is miraculous every time because these are treatments that are not FDA approved.
Right.
And think about a lot of different cases. Initially, I think that we started getting less good results like the last 3 years, from a standpoint of the patients were coming in already doing, immunotherapies. They've
Mhm.
already done like the checkpoint inhibitors and
Mhm.
the other immunotherapies that are now FDA approved that weren't when we first started.
Right.
A lot of the approvals happen after, and then even then, the oncologists weren't used to prescribing them. So we were seeing these full, if you
Mhm.
call them cures, or I mean, some of these patients
Oh,
after
that's
5 years, I guess
Right.
that it would be considered a cure of patients, and you know, we'd see these amazing cases all the time. Part of the evolution was seeing that and saying, okay, well, these patients have already been pre-treated with immunotherapies now, not just pre-treated with chemotherapy, and maybe we're seeing less response, a less response in those patients. And the evolution, though, what we're about to do is going to be
Right.
it's going to be incredible because we're going to be doing really the treatments of the future, the treatments that are going to be FDA approved in 5 or 10 years. Many of those, like tumor infiltrating lymphocytes. I think that's going to be a really big treatment for our patients. It was pretty much designed at the National Cancer Institute at the Rosenberg lab. Franco Marincola, one of our scientific advisory board members, he worked a lot on those type of things, and so did Anna. She's working for a TIL company right now, I believe at MD Anderson.
Yeah.
CAR T cells, that'll be another one that I think we can have a huge impact with, especially for the blood cancers. Those are FDA approved. They're really hard to get and they're really expensive. So sometimes insurance won't cover it. It's $500,000, and we're going to be bringing that hopefully to patients under $50,000.
Yep.
So that's kind of an evolution. And then you combine all the different diagnostics. I mean, our tumor panel test is going to be almost double the largest one available in the United States. So we'll be able to, have a lot more markers to show potential matches for the patients. We'll be doing whole exome sequencing, which is going to be pretty wild what we can do with that.
Right.
We'll be doing something called optical genome mapping with the Bionano Saphyr. That machine's awesome. And And so, what's your understanding of the Bionano Saphyr, how it works? Let me see where we're at.
Very limited understanding of how it works.
I'll pass this one to the smart guy.
Pass it back to you.
Okay. I just want people to understand it in a way that they can teach it, to simplify it. So, if next generation sequencing chops up the DNA into small fragments and does a deep dive in the DNA.
Okay.
Optical genome mapping is taking a picture of the genome from 10,000 feet.
Okay.
Okay. So, if you look at a forest from 10,000 feet, and you're trying to find where the fire is, you want to look at 10,000 feet and see smoke. So whereas optical genome mapping is 10,000 feet, next generation sequencing, you'd already be in the forest. You might miss the smoke because you don't know where the fire's coming.
All right.
So one of the things that we're going to be able to do is use the optical genome mapping, look at it from 10,000 feet, look to see where the smoke is, and then do a deep dive into smoke with the next generation sequencing.
Nice. Okay.
And so nobody's doing that right now, at least to the patient's benefit. It's all, in research right now. But I think that we're going to be able to put some really good things together, for patients, with that.
Awesome. Well, this whole wildland firefighter analogy definitely clarified.
Yeah, now I can understand it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
And then, the next generation sequencing machine that we have, I'll probably end up getting another one. But, it can just do so much. It's a badass sequencer, like a dream come true for patients. Whereas, right now in Baja, all of Mexico, there's only, there's not another genomics lab. There will be the only one there. And, amount of information we'll be able to get, for the patients, not just that are coming in from the United States, but in that area too.
Right.
And they should want to send their, if someone has a solid tumor cancer, they should want to send their tumor sample to us, or actually have us do a biopsy on it.
Right.
To get that information for them. Because, once you have that information and you can extract as much out and you can find a target, if you can find a target, of course, sometimes there's not targets, but, you can then do targeted treatment for those patients.
How do you think that this, all plays in with like computer learning and taking this data? Because that's what we're doing is like taking disease and extracting as much data as we can to help the patient get the most informed, targeted treatment. Historically, this has been done by doctors, right? Like taking data, observing the patient and blood tests and tumor markers. But now we have machine learning that can process data infinitely faster than humans can.
Yeah.
What does this mean for like the patients as we're putting the tools in to extract the data? Can we plug this into like ChatGPT or something where it's like that type of technology can make it faster?
Yeah, we will have that.
Yeah.
So we're buying a bioinformatics platform.
Nice.
To disseminate that information and make specific reports for us. And then we'll have 2 PhDs in bioinformatics to, really make sense of it for us.
Yeah.
And so, it's going to be we'll have our servers. Scott's kind of working on that as well. But it's not just, getting the information, it's disseminating it into something that makes sense and that's valuable, to the patient, ultimately to the patient, to the doctors, the scientists, everybody.
Right.
So that's the goal.
Can't wait to get it going.
Yeah, it's been a
Sure wish
process.
Hillary didn't slow us down.
Right.
Right. Yeah. We a few weeks ago. Tell them what happened with Hillary.
Oh man, Hillary Clinton or Hillary the Hurricane?
Yeah. Right.
Both.
We got hit hard by Hillary. Well, it didn't help we didn't have the roof done on the building,
Right.
but we got a lot of rain and we got really wet. And thank God you called me up and said we better get down there. I hightailed it down there and filled my truck full of sandbags and tarps, and staff did a lot of hard work. And Ryan Carney came down afterwards and gave us all the help we needed to figure out what we could save and what we couldn't save. And
Right.
that was another crazy CHIPSA story.
Right.
Another
where,
crazy
Add that
CHIPSA
one to
story.
the list.
Yeah, I mean, so
Building
you know,
slip and
we didn't
slides.
have a roof on the hospital
Mhm.
during the renovation. So when the hurricane comes and we get 15 hours of rain without a roof, but all the work that we've done on the fourth floor is, you know, brand new and beautiful. Um, yeah, it's a nightmare. A lot of uh, tarp hanging at angles and, you know, hanging off the side of the fifth
Yeah.
floor, like as we're walking on a slip and slide, basically.
Yeah.
It was pretty
In
wild.
ankle deep water.
In ankle deep water.
I got stuck in the elevator.
Oh yeah, you got stuck in the elevator for about
Yeah.
45 minutes. We
Yeah.
didn't know where Scott was, and he didn't have his phone on him.
No, I had my phone. It was dead.
Okay, yeah,
It got wet.
his
It was
phone was
dead.
dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
But what about let's go back
Oh.
to some stories over the years. We've got so many.
Oh, man.
What's like, you know, what's your favorite story over the years, Deddrick?
Favorite? I would say Orange Gate at the border when we had
Oh yeah. We had to throw away the oranges.
Oh yeah,
That was
yeah.
you guys. Yeah. I
So,
wasn't there.
you know, at that time we didn't have the same type of vendor relationships that we have now for organic produce. So we were sourcing a lot of the produce from the States, from San Diego. And you know, we just had like just truckloads of organic oranges. And the Mexican authorities were like, nah. I'm bringing these in. We're like, hey, it's for a hospital, it's for patients. We're not selling oranges. We're not trying to do anything. Very tense moment over, and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, is this really how it all ends over like a truckload of oranges? Is this really
Two truckloads, two trucks.
two truckloads of
truckloads, yeah.
oranges? But we made it through. That's always one that sticks out to me because I'm like, man, just the irony of it all. Like
Yeah.
we had done so much, we had come so far, and then the oranges got us.
Yeah. Yeah, we got detained for a while then.
Right? Yeah.
It was kind of tense moments. What's
Mine's probably when the HR lady made up the fake holiday and then got accidentally ratted out by the nurses.
Yeah. So yeah, how did that go down?
So we didn't know what Mexican holidays were real and what weren't at
Right.
that point. And
The first year.
yeah, that first year, the HR lady had made up a fake holiday and then so everybody got paid double or whatever it was. And she got her kickback from the staff for doing it. And she had done her math wrong with some of the nurses. And the nurses came to us to explain why the math was wrong and that she owed them money, not knowing that they were ratting everybody out for creating a fake Mexican holiday. And
Or
I
they
just
get
remember
paid
it was
time and a
fun.
half. That's why they
Right.
did it.
Yeah.
I paid time. Like I think the people that worked got double, and the
Okay.
people that got the day off
It was
got
like
time
a
and a
paid,
half or
paid
something
day off
like
or something.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, paid day
Yeah.
off. And then I remember, yeah, they were in there explaining to us what happened, and a light bulb went on with our heads. Like, wait a minute here, why was she getting a kickback for your holiday pay?
Right.
And yeah, she hadn't done the math right. We probably never would have known if she could do math. And then I remember we fired her, and she had broken her foot. So I remember her like limping out of the hospital with her air cast on and her box full of personal stuff. Like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. You know, like, on your way.
Oh gosh.
Oh, that was a good
Oh,
one.
wow.
Yeah.
I was just telling you, I saw her at the grocery store.
Yeah, you said that. Man. That's so
It was wild.
crazy, man.
It's wild.
Oh.
Mexican holiday. I remember when we had
Or the elevator story.
the
Oh.
elevator story. That was a painful one.
That was.
That was like we suffered for 8 months, worried that our elevator was broke. You know, you have a cancer hospital, so you gotta be able to bring people up and down. And the guy said it had a leak, some type of leak. And this is our elevator tech. The elevator tech said it has some type of leak,
Yeah.
and that there was one part that had to be sent from
I think it was Italy.
Yeah, something like
and
Greece
some
or something
crazy
like that.
story, and that it couldn't be fixed. And then, you know, basically he was saying we need to put a new elevator in the hospital. Like, well, we don't have any room to put a new elevator. Like, what are you talking about? And basically, it was going to be $70-something thousand at the time. Put a new elevator in, full construction, the
Yeah.
whole deal.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, it's just so painful. Like, we stop everything that we're doing, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of you had a light bulb go off and like, let me just go see
I think
this.
it was me. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you both went down there,
Yeah.
Yeah. We climbed in the elevator.
looked at
It
it.
didn't make sense. He
Well-
said there was a hole in it and the pressure was pushing
Wow.
the oil out that pumped up the elevator. I'm like, if there was a hole in here, it would never get to the top floor.
Mhm.
Impossible. All that oil would go shooting out like a jet stream of all the pressure of the elevator itself, all the people in the elevator.
Right.
And then I remember I put a post up on Facebook. Does anybody know anything about elevator repair? And Jeff from Toughen Up's like, one of my referees does. He works on these elevators. I got on the phone with that guy. He called BS on all of it. Turned out the guy was pouring oil all over the floor
Wild.
to make up.
And
the
then he
leak.
was like sprinkling it
Sprinkling on the
sawdust
ground,
or
yeah.
whatever on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scammer.
Or try to get
Yeah.
us to
Ah.
put a whole new elevator in. It was a $700 fix.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had a lot of those.
attacks.
Remember, the other one was Dr. Lopez. I mean, he would, he did the,
Supplements, that one.
yeah, the supplement scam where he was, I remember the first time I called him out and he knew
Right.
that I knew that he was stealing from us, his little invoice scam. But he was serving a purpose as our medical director. We knew that we wanted to get Dr. Escobedo, who's our current medical director. Dr. Escobedo's
Awesome.
incredible human being.
Light years.
Yes.
Right.
And we had hired Dr. Escobedo as the director of patient safety to, go and just make sure patients he's an internist and that was his main focus. But Dr. Lopez had his invoice scam where he would, give us invoices, say he received the medication, the supplements, and, basically be.
Yeah.
And I said, Dr. Lopez, I said, I know what you're doing with these invoices.
Right.
I said, but understand, I need you right now. And when I don't need you, I'm going to fire you. So I'll just suck it up. Like, because it's,
Yeah.
you have no idea how many people are stealing from you. And I'm like, you're probably, I probably don't have an idea. I have an idea, but I don't have an idea. You're right.
Yeah.
I don't have the precise number, but I do have an idea.
All the different scams.
But you have no idea. We know what you're up to.
Right.
Exactly. So that was, that's something that we did really good over the years is, you know that you're getting stolen from in certain areas. You don't have all the right people yet, all the right systems and those type of things. And, you just can't let those little things, but you can't let them stop you from the big goal, which
Right.
the big goal is what we're working on right now. If we would have really let those little situations derail us.
Well, we inherited some good people, and
Yeah.
we got people that have been with us from day one, like Falk,
Yeah.
Dr. Fox. Good people, man. Been since the day one almost. He's
Yeah.
been with us, Dr.
Yeah.
Escobedo,
Yeah.
Dr. Menez,
And it's definitely been there since day one.
Yeah, Menez was first doctor.
Yeah.
Right.
Him and Falk.
We remember we picked him up at the airport the first day to come work with us, and the GPS sent us like down some crazy dirt
Oh,
road that
yeah.
ended in a valley. We're like, where the hell are we?
Doesn't seem safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
Wow.
Dr. Menez has come a long way.
Oh my God.
He's
yeah.
evolved
amazing.
a lot.
He's a stud. Yeah.
Yes.
Great doctor.
Yeah, he's actually super athletic. Initially when he came
He
to
got
us,
his blue belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. But initially when he came to us, he was pretty overweight.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he's lost 100, 150 pounds. I don't know how much. I mean, he's
Yeah.
lost a lot of weight. But then you look at old football pictures. I mean, he was an athlete.
Yeah.
So now he's surfing. He does surfing
And jiu-jitsu.
competitions, blue belt in
Yeah.
jiu-jitsu now. Yeah, that's really cool. Dr. Anna,
Yeah.
Long time,
he's
too.
been with us for a long time. Not quite as long as Menez, but
They were in that first wave, that first group of new doctors that we
Yeah.
were hiring.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think about, like you're talking about Dr. Falk. I remember when Dr. Falk was on the phone with patients
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
in the early days. Back then when we were first starting, we're living in the hospital.
hmm
We'd be in the conference room, and it was, us, Perry Briggs, and Dr. Falk. And
Yeah.
Dr. Falk would do the doctor calls, and we would talk to patients. A lot of talking to patients over those years.
A lot.
What's it like? You think about being on the floor, because we were on the floor first. When did we get Hondo and
I was like around
Pablo and
year 3.
those systems
It was
were?
like
That quick?
I think it was.
Sure felt longer.
I think it was like 3 or 4. So
Yeah, I think it was like 3 or 4. Well, let's see. So it was 2015. COVID was 2019, right? When we were in Puerto Rico.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a little before we went to Puerto Rico, right?
Yep.
So yeah, about 2018 probably.
2018. So either you or I were on the floor till then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't on as long as you,
yeah.
and then you had reached a breaking point. Well,
I reached a breaking point over that lady that came in the wheelchair and then wrecked her room on the way out.
yeah. Tell that story.
Oh man, yeah, I remember that lady. She came in. She was so sick in a wheelchair, and then I think they stayed an extra week or something like that, and we gave them a discount. And she wasn't happy with how much of a discount.
Well, it wasn't
felt-
just a
she
wheel.
felt
She,
like
she,
she wanted
she was
more.
out of the wheelchair, walking and feeling great.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
when
yeah.
she left.
Yeah.
Yeah, she left. I remember the last thing I said to her. I don't remember her name, but I was like, I said, "Well, you might hate me, but I'm sure happy that you're leaving here walking and destroying the lobby on the way out, because when you came in, you were pushed in a wheelchair on oxygen and you couldn't stand up on your own. But now you're destroying my lobby over 5% or something like that. Crazy how miserable some people could be. Yeah.
That was always a balance too. I remember, because most people don't know how many people we've helped for free.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it was over $1 million a year if you added
Yeah.
it all up
Yeah.
every year. A lot of times where we didn't have a whole lot of extra money.
Right.
But one of the first aha moments I had was, with Laura Payne. We gave her a scholarship,
Mhm.
and other patients, a lot of them got really upset about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And I guess now, yeah, it makes sense. I understand that, like, hey, they, and they didn't, this is close to the beginning, or this is probably 2017. But like, okay, now nobody, when we do something for
Nice.
somebody, we
Yeah.
can't, they can't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we would ask people not to say anything. We'll do this for you,
Yeah.
but you can't tell anybody we're doing it for you.
What about when Stripe froze like $50,000-$60,000 of ours for no reason?
Yeah.
We had to borrow money from Steve Chaw to make payroll
Yeah.
for
That was all of a sudden.
no reason. Yeah.
It was actually 90.
Yeah.
Was it 90,000? I
It was
couldn't
more than
remember
that,
how
yeah,
much
it's
it
closer
was.
to $100,000.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a nightmare.
it was. Had a few of those.
Yep.
What are some impactful, patients over the years that really remember? I mean, I know there's a lot, but maybe
Laura's a big one.
Mhm.
Latham.
Yeah, like them.
No, he was a big one. Willie.
Yeah.
I mean, Ann Fonfa wasn't our patient, but she's been impactful from the beginning. It's hard to remember names while I'm on the spot.
Right.
And the other ones that we already mentioned.
Laura's was probably the most impactful for me.
Yeah.
And that was what a human, what
Yeah.
a person.
Right.
Awesome.
Were y'all there the first day that she came in?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I mean, back then, I would do the
Orientation.
orientation.
Right.
And so we would have this orientation. The first day everybody came in. Orientation was a game changer for us,
It
by the way,
was.
when we implemented doing an orientation for the patients.
Right.
Yeah.
Set the expectation.
For any of you, anyone here promised a cure, please raise your hand for your refund.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because you got to think about that. That's what they would say, oh, we promise. It's like, okay, one, we would never promise you that. So let's get it out of the way in front of everybody. Did anybody promise you a cure? Did they say that you're going to put an IV in and your cancer is going to magically disappear? Did anybody promise you that?
Right.
No. Okay. And then we'd go through the list of things that they would say that we possibly said, and like, okay, just want to set this straight. We'll give a refund if that's what you believe, because we don't want to mislead you here. But it did make a big difference, because that's kind of that was part of the patient experience.
Yep.
It keeps people honest and focused. But I remember doing the orientation. Laura is in the back of the room, and she's got this giant tumor coming out of her head, and she's got an eye patch on. And I was like, oh man, is she, going to be okay? Like, what's the story? And she just had this bubbly, beautiful, personality, her and Cody, both. And, she had driven from Knoxville, Tennessee, all the way to Tijuana because she couldn't fly due to the pressure on the airplane. Caused so much pain. So she drove, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is going to be a tough one. And, I remember meeting them, loving them, and a couple weeks later, she sends me a text like, I can see. And that was the first, we're like, if she can see now out of the eye, it's got to be getting smaller.
Right.
And then you could start seeing it go away. It was a giant tumor,
Yeah.
but we got about 95% reduction over a couple months. I think it was a couple months. And, she battled for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Really, really person. What were your thoughts on, like with Laura, like what's your experience?
Laura and Cody are awesome. They brought so much energy into the hospital. I mean, anytime I ever had a bad day, I just could look at Laura and be like, all right, well, if she's got a giant tumor poking out her head in pain and having a great day, what the hell is my excuse,
Right.
I'm not going through anything like that. So a lot of inspiration
I think
from her.
for me, it's like Cody too,
Cody, yeah.
because they hadn't been together that long, right? And that's just an amazing love story that you can meet somebody, and you get this news, and he's all in. This guy's got a business to run. He puts his whole life on hold to join this fight with her. That's true commitment. That's the type of, if you got somebody like that in your corner supporting you, it's a lot easier to, that they're as committed to it as in many ways, perhaps more committed to your success. That's like a big, I always drew a lot of inspiration from him, because he's like, you hopped into this when a lot of people, you didn't have to, or that's amazing.
Remember when he was Enema Man?
Yes.
The funniest superhero, Enema Man, going around to the patient's enema bucket on his head and a cape. And so awesome. Wow. So awesome.
It was awesome. Yeah, I liked Latham and his dad as well.
Latham is Chris.
Chris, yeah.
Yep. And his girlfriend.
Yeah. Anna?
Maria? What is it?
Her name.
Yeah, they were great.
They were what up?
Good people.
He was a boxer. Talk about, you think about these stories. And again, he didn't want anybody feeling sorry for him.
Yeah.
Super positive. I think that's why they stick out so much, because their mindset was so good.
Yep.
And couldn't help but love them. But yeah, he was in his 20s, mid 20s. He ended up getting a tumor in his neck, and it was got a good response the first time, but it came back, and of course we did our best. But that was a tough loss for the hospital. That was pretty deep. I remember his signature was on the John Satterfield's kitchen board.
Yeah.
For the longest little note that he wrote. I used to like to look at that. But you can find so many inspirations in people, and you can tell a lot about people by how they act when they're facing,
Yeah.
Potential death or sometimes certain
Yeah.
death. Definitely a lot of good lessons with that.
Yeah. There's the Canadian bodybuilder guy, the real young guy that came down and got
Mhm.
cancer.
I
Spent a
remember
lot of
him.
time with him. Mom ended up coming down. I have so many patients over the
A lot of good people. Good memories. Some
Yeah.
filled with a little pain, but
Right.
and
Yeah.
Vanessa,
Vanessa, she's still kicking.
still here, yeah.
Yeah, she's
Still beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say 8 years out.
21st birthday party at the CHIPSA.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
Got a concert and everything.
Yeah.
Hope song there too. And what was the young kid that Keith Burns got the lizard boots and a hat for him? I can't
Oh
remember
yeah, I
his
remember
name,
that
but
guy. Yeah.
Hawk had to do that crazy thing to clear out his lungs, the surgery to clear out his lungs.
Yeah. Falk is such a great surgeon.
Oh yeah.
Gosh.
How many lives that guy saved?
Yeah, so many.
So many.
Colleges won't touch
Right.
people in the US. Falk looks at it, and if he thinks he can possibly do it,
Yeah,
he'll
he
set
does.
the expectation, but
Yeah,
goes for it.
he does.
He's extended people's lives a lot. What else, guys? So talk about kind of our business relationship,
Okay.
because I think it's very unique in the sense that we've lived together for almost 9 years, that like I said, we would get up, drink coffee, talk work, go to work, come home, work more, talk business, never
Mhm.
stopping any of it.
Right.
And, not that I took it for granted as we're going through it, but, I knew for me, I had two guys with different skill sets, but that were equally committed to the mission and that would do whatever it took to make sure that we were successful.
Mhm.
I mean, and we're obviously still together. As we were going through it, though, did y'all realize how unique and special it was?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have friends who are in different types of business partnerships, and so we're doing this. We're not in a vacuum, right? We all have entrepreneur friends. We've all had our own business relationships that maybe didn't end as well with partners. I know I have, and I'm seeing, throughout the last 8 or 9 years, friends, started businesses, got some traction, and the relationship between the partners is really ultimately what was the cause of the failure. And yeah, I definitely noticed that it was different and special because I see how many times that dynamic between different personalities really is the undoing of something that could potentially be very great. Watched it over and over and over again in different people's lives. I'm like, "Whew, thank God we could just get up and like just drink coffee. Maybe more people should move in with each other.
Or drink more coffee. I don't know. Both,
Yeah.
Deal with me walking around in my underwear all day.
Maybe more people should do that too.
They might need to. I my business before that, I had the worst business partner ever. So
Yeah.
with his mom in tow. So I think when I first met Deddrick, you know what I mean? Like, it just kind of felt like, oh yeah, this is gonna work. Everybody's skill sets are so different, so we don't really trample on each other at all. And I think for me, like, if it's some strategy stuff and you say that's what we should do, I trust you 100%. If it's some numbers stuff over here, you say that's what we need to do, I trust you 100%. So I think that we all have our own kind of spot where we fit in. Now we got Francisco. I think he fits in, fills a different spot as well. That's awesome. And I think Deddrick's the most level-headed. He's like the glue of the family, holds everybody together.
Yes, stoic over there.
Me and you might be a little more roller coaster from time to time, but at least we tend to be at different different stages, right? One of us is break down, the other one's fine, so it kind of balances the teeter-totter. Deddrick standing in the middle, putting weight down on the side. Okay, this side's getting a little up there. Let me step down on that side. Okay, we're a little more balanced over here, and put it all together that way.
It works for like a very challenging dynamic that we're in, right? Because on one hand, it's life or death
Yep.
with the customers,
Mm.
right? The patients. On the other hand, we have like this big cultural bridge that we need to build to get to with our team, right? It's not like we have a team of majority Americans or even native English speakers. And then there's the rest of the business, right?
Mhm.
So you can, those two big check boxes, and then there's everything else associated with it. We have to be very different and dynamic in order to make it all work, especially early on, because we didn't have like the team that we have now is amazing.
Yep.
But I remember when we didn't have those people. We didn't have those resources. And
Right.
it's-
Cleaning toilets.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you think about, we all have our different skill sets, but we also all know how to clean a toilet.
Yeah.
We've all
true.
done, there's
Yeah,
never
the
been a
grunt work,
job
yeah.
that has been
Yeah.
too, we'll call it low for us.
Right.
We're like,
Mhm.
whatever needs to be done, actually, let's
Yeah.
go and get it done.
And just dealing with cancer patients and just the importance of the life and everything like that. It's hard to get caught up in petty shit
Yeah.
when like
Yeah.
somebody you care about is at the hospital that's having a bad day or close to passing away. It's kind of like, well, what are we really going to argue about?
Right.
Like not much to argue in this situation. How do
Right.
we all focus on getting this person healthier?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, it was, it's still not normal though. I mean, you figure you're living with somebody. Most people that live together for 9 years argue, I would think.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's like, they say it's really difficult to live together. Most people, especially not just living together, but also being business partners and working
Right.
together.
Right.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, we've had heated debates, but maybe a handful of real arguments.
Yeah. I think it also
Mhm.
helps that we live together, but we also have our own space,
Hmm.
right? Like that time apart is just as important as time together.
Sure.
More time apart now because the business is in a different place. But when it was needed, like the time together was like high quality, togetherness
Yeah.
to solve problems and work through things and, try to find a different solution. These are things that can't be accomplished on Zooms, right? Like they can't, meeting time and scheduled meetings can only do so much
Right.
when it's just 24/7 of just like, hey,
What needs to be done?
Right. So it cuts out a lot of distraction.
Yeah.
Really, I think that was probably one of
Yeah.
the biggest benefit is like we literally can't be distracted unless we're trying to be distracted. We literally can't because it's like we're in it.
Right.
We are in it, like together in it. There's no, okay, I got to go meet with Ed and Scott tomorrow to talk. No, I got to wake up and here we are.
Gotta get this.
Right.
Gotta get
Right?
this, yeah.
There's no space in
Mhm.
between, that high impact time. So we got so much more of it in a day
Yeah.
than most partnerships will have. So, and that's why I'm like, what I think people should move in or at least attempt it if they're really
Makes
trying
sense, yeah.
something big. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought about that. I mean, it's or we could just be pretty unique, and they would want to kill each other.
Yeah. True.
I mean,
That's possible.
it's
That's
it's interesting though because I mean, there should be a case study on it, really,
Yeah.
and how we've been able to make it work. Being doing it in an unconventional way, living
Right.
together, moving into a hospital, moving to a foreign country.
Right.
We were all
we
in.
always give each other grace too. If you're like, I got to get out for this
Right.
here
Yeah.
a little while, there you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Nobody's like tracking each other's hours or
No.
anything like that. It's just like
Well, we're always
Get her done.
working, and if we need time off, it's never because we know that we all work really hard.
yeah.
And even when there's time off, it doesn't really seem like we're mostly still doing something
Yeah.
pertaining to work
Yeah.
every day of our lives.
Every day. Yeah.
I abandoned the idea of work-life balance years ago.
You're right.
And it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
even exist. Like, I'm
Yeah.
either, it's life.
Life
Yes.
balance.
This is it. I try to create
Yeah.
balance in my life, but
Well, also we spread out into so many other businesses. Just
Yeah.
started with just CHIPSA, but now
Yeah.
I got all kinds of stuff going on.
yeah, that's true.
And that's nice to have those other income streams to take pressure off of just the one
Right.
hospital for
Right.
it. Yeah, it's definitely Fords for a better lifestyle
Yeah.
Yeah.
to be able to not just be dependent on that.
Bigger team,
Yeah.
better team,
Yeah.
better situation for everyone.
Yeah. I think one of the big things for our growth was the book Traction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that bringing Avik in really,
Ooh, yeah.
you know, you work with Avik the closest.
Oh yeah.
That's been your, I'm not saying right hand, but he's, you know,
Yeah, he's an advisor for
Yeah.
sure.
great advisor. What was your biggest, tell how we got to Traction.
Oh yeah. So I want to say maybe it was you had been talking to Dan Reitman. I think he had just sold the company Stroll, or perhaps the parent company Stroll. Great exit, and you know, I had maybe tangentially heard about Traction, and then it's like one of those situations where you hear about something again, and you're like, wait a minute, you know, this isn't a coincidence. Let me just grab a hold of it. I think you had maybe met him or something. I don't know what the backstory was of how you had connected with him to talk about it. I just got it and read the book, and I was like, oh, this is exactly what we need,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we were at the time, you know, beyond our capacity for management,
Mhm.
right? To build a world-class institution. And we needed some framework, and just starting building that part of it from scratch was just not in any of our skill sets, really.
Mm-hmm.
So having some out-the-box system
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that was already written in the book, it already had its own lingo, and all we had to do was just like indoctrinate and cascade. That made the growth of our business, like, in my opinion, like 10 times easier.
Yep.
And it was the results were almost immediate,
Yeah.
right? Like,
definitely.
just, oh, okay, things aren't slipping through the cracks as much. There's more organization. You know, we have a you know, kind of source of truth where questions have been asked and the answers are there, and there's data, and then we got scorecards, and we can make decisions that don't seem as intuitive and reactive, but we actually can go back and look at data. And that type of stuff is, you know, that's game changing
Yep.
management level stuff. And I think it makes it easier for us to bring in, you know, talented people as leaders,
Right.
to know that there's a system already in place.
Yeah.
Right.
Right person, right seat.
Right person, right seat.
That was a big one. Didn't we meet? Wasn't it through Ed O'Keefe?
Yeah, was
I
gonna say,
remember
think it was
Reitman
like
was speaking at Ed O'Keefe's event when he was doing
Time
traffic
collapsing.
and conversion.
Oh, well, we
Was it-
met Dan Reitman here.
Oh, okay.
Ed was having a party here. I think it was for his time
collapse.
collapsing.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that's when Dan mentioned Traction. And I told Deddrick, of course, Deddrick goes and reads the book 3 times before Monday. And he's like, I read it 3 times.
This is amazing.
Like, sweet.
This is amazing.
And yeah, thank God for Deddrick implementing it, because, I mean, you and I wouldn't have implemented
Oh yeah, no way. Game changer.
It
The
was.
glue. I told you he's the
Yeah.
glue.
I
So I
know.
saw the very low hanging fruit benefit, and adding Avik to it over the years has been really beneficial because, you know, again, you know, coming and bringing our style of leadership, right? Okay, so we established this baseline of management framework, but then there's still leadership required to make it work, right? Like, that just L10 and Traction by itself means nothing, right? So that makes it easier for us to develop people and get them in a place to where they can be the type of leaders that more align with what we want and the vision for the company.
Yeah.
Without that type of safety, I look at it, Traction as like a management safety net,
Mm-hmm.
right? It gives leaders the confidence to know that, okay, somebody is watching, there is accountability. We do have a system. Now you can start developing and investing that time and being individually better at what you do.
Yeah.
And like that matters.
Right.
Like, individual performance, peak performance is data driven in sports, in business, in everything.
Yep.
And we didn't have the framework before that to identify where those points could be and identify the people who could fit in the best. So that was game changer for us.
Out. Man, think about Traction. There's little things, if you look at from a business standpoint, that I think were big game changers. Traction was one. I think that you with Infusionsoft, Scott,
Yep.
that
Oh, yeah,
was
absolutely.
key, because the automation of follow up
Mm-hmm.
and you having that experience, you know, with it it was a game changer for us.
Mhm,
I mean,
yeah.
we wouldn't have been able to move near as fast, and
Nope.
you know, getting the emails out to the patients, getting the techs out, and systems pretty advanced, now. Thank God you have that.
Infusion soft.
Yeah.
Keep.
Maybe we'll go to a new system here one of these days,
Yeah.
but not that you want to relearn it, but
Right.
it's one of those things that it's really hard for someone else to just come in and do, though.
Yeah, no, infusion soft. Yeah, I got Lloyd Irvin.
Yeah.
Lloyd Irvin's like, Shorty,
Buddy.
gotta lose this infusion.
Yes.
All right. Time to dig in.
Freaking Lloyd. Lloyd's another big influence. I mean, I guess on all of
Huge.
us, really, because
Yeah,
of,
yeah.
you were in his mastermind. Were you ever in his mastermind?
I was in the Marcos Avalon mastermind, which was kind of like a offshoot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was, spending a ton of time with him.
Right.
In my 20s, I mean, I was out in Maryland probably, 2 or 3 months a year training. And Lloyd, my God, talk about systems. Stick to the system. Stick to the system. It's all about, the system and the numbers and the just putting in the time and the work ethic. And he taught me a lot about mindset too,
Mhm.
from a competitor standpoint. And of course, internet marketing. I mean, Lloyd told me I remember we were at a Grappler's Quest in New York. It was a Brian Simmons event, Grappler's Quest. And we're sitting in the stands, and Grappling Magazine has an ad for Gameness, an ad that I was doing. He's like, "Look at this ad. Look at this is the worst ad I've ever seen." He's like, "You think he's gonna make any money off this ad?" And he just starts making fun of my ad, in front of people. It's a Lloyd, it's just, he would do this in a motivational way, though, by the
Mhm.
way. And then he laid out, "Hey, you got to read this book. Hey, for my mixed martial art gym, put the pop-up up." He had told me forever to put the pop-up. I put the pop-up up, and I went from 59 to 400 students in the next 12 months.
Mm.
I mean, that was Lloyd. It was all about, and he's like, "Read this." He took me to Dan Kennedy masterminds. Really took me under his wing, and he was tough as hell. And but he made me tough. He was like, I'm so glad I had those lessons. And now I still call him for advice if I have a question that I really need some outside thinking. He's always giving it to me straight.
Oh yeah, a lot. One of my biggest learnings from Lloyd was, Shorty, it takes the same amount of work to sell a $9 product as a $9,000 product. So put some zeros on the end of that.
Right? Really?
So true, right? It takes the same amount of effort.
Really?
Yeah. No, it was it was good. I mean, the whole and for you and I, the martial arts background, I think that's that's helped us through all this as well.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Competition. This is like competition. The
We
only way
love competition instead of fearing competition.
right.
That's a big difference.
We do. The only way we're going to lose is if we quit.
Yeah.
We're not quitting.
Yeah.
And right
You
now,
stepped up your game. Oh, watch us. Now we got to step ours up twice as much.
oh yeah, and we're trying to think 10 steps ahead too.
Yeah.
Think about the future. Let's not build a product for today. Let's build it for 10 years from now, or what's going to be really, like right now, what's going to be mainstream in 10 to 15 years is what we're
Right.
what we're really looking at. We've talked a lot about a number of things, but from the stem cell side, we have the best stem cells that are on the markets
Right.
in humans right now,
Right.
with the hypoxic cells. There's a lot of studies on that, but I mean, what we're going to be doing beyond that with the chondrocytes, with the neural cells, with the cardiomyocytes, it's really next level stuff. Like always innovating.
Yeah.
How do we have the best? So yeah, we're thinking, multiple steps ahead, because that's like the future of medicine. Why wouldn't we think like that?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, we can't get stuck and be stagnant. Yeah, that'll never work to scale ever. Right. Just stagnation and scaling are just almost the polar opposites of each other. So, asking those questions, thinking about the future, and not in a way that's going to preserve today, but being very open to a radically different future, I think is probably one of the biggest strengths that we have. So many people get held back holding on to today when really the future can be much more promising and effective and impactful. And for us to take those type of risks, people look at that, it's jarring. Like, oh wow, you guys are really changing everything. Yeah, of course. Like, because everything's changing.
Everything's changing.
Everything's changing. So we are changing everything. So
Yeah, it's like we have the clinical trial system is very analog type model
yeah, of
too.
course.
It's just it could be so much better.
Yeah.
And the position that we're in with a truly translational and advanced center, where we have the diagnostics and the research tools that we need to figure things out. We have the bioinformatics guys that are coming in and the PhDs that can help disseminate, the information, figure out how to turn it into products in the U.S., which I'm really excited about. I'm excited about, getting some of these panels and bringing them, to the United States, for testing. And I want to make it open source too. I don't want it to, we'll file our IP, but I think that everybody should be able to use it, and we shouldn't allow this archaic patent system that we have to
Yeah.
hold back some of this innovation, with these tests going on.
I think that would be a great contribution to the scientific community, and hopefully start a significant trend, right? And encourage other people who are having the same types of questions, if they are, to maybe, hey, if everybody, or if a significant number of thinkers or innovators were open to this type of open source dialogue and giving all of this access directly to the patients and the providers, what would happen, right? If we didn't have everybody playing keep away,
Right.
what would happen? Would there be more advances, potentially cures, better health outcomes? Surely, yes. Like, somebody's got to step up and do it, though, right? So, being in America and kind of scaling back into America with this is exciting just for that reason alone.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have to do it like everybody else.
No.
And we have a lot of advantages, with our biotech in the U.S., especially with the data that we're able to get from Mexico to design, better clinical trials, for the different treatments. And we have basically our own little in-house CRO.
Mhm.
CRO is Clinical Research Organization, for those listening, but that allows us to do the research in-house. We don't have to send the samples off. We don't have to wait for them to process it. That's
Yeah.
too long. We don't have to pay the exorbitant amounts. I mean, we'll be saving, on the clinical trials, probably, I think we'll save, like on our first trial, $30,000 per patient. So what, on 100 patients, what's that? We'll save $3 million,
Mhm.
just by doing it that way.
Yeah.
Being able to do a lot of the stuff ourselves, as much stuff as we
Right.
possibly
we
can.
Yeah.
In which are CLIA certified labs. I mean, these are
Right.
CAP actually. So we have, it's legit high quality, science that we're able to produce.
Right. And that's just just like we were putting our money where our mouth is with the patient experience.
Yeah.
The patients know that we're not treating them like a number.
Right.
The marketplace knows that we're not interested in this cookie cutter approach to development. And open source intellectual property is, that's almost those are almost contradictory ideas in America, right? So nobody wants to do that. So, being a leader and putting that out there, puts us in a different plane. That separates us from all of the other biotech companies that are out there. Everybody's playing keep away,
Right.
with science and innovation, which I understand that position as well. But this is different. We're doing something different. So
Definitely a new way of thinking about things. And with the treatment specifically, there's got to be a way to protect our IP because it
Yeah.
costs so much to develop a lot of these treatments. But I don't see the point of, enforcing the patents on the testing. Even if we make discoveries, it's like, why hold this stuff back?
Right.
And why keep people from, being able to use these tests. We're going to develop some novel tests. Our lab is badass. You see all these, a lot of these people, marketing their different tests, but they're sending it off to a lab and they got good marketing behind that test. And it's hardly ever done, in-house.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to build a genomics lab.
Yeah.
It ain't that easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving pieces, to that, but we're doing it and it's almost done actually.
Yeah.
Getting close.
We've got a great team.
Yep.
Let's see. Anything else, guys? We've hit on a lot of different stuff, but
We did.
it's been 2 hours,
2 hours.
a little over 2 hours.
I'm sure we can do another podcast here
Yeah.
soon.
Yeah.
There'll be new
Right.
stories to tell.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the most, like, what I want people to know is how lucky I am to have 2 partners like you. I mean, I fucking love you
I
guys.
think we all think
Dang,
we're
man.
We've been
Yeah,
through a
absolutely.
lot, and
we're like the Blues Brothers
God
over
dang,
here.
it's been
Right.
We're on a mission from
Yeah,
God.
that's it. You got
it's
it.
been a hell of a ride. But that's part of. I mean, that's. I was thinking, like, we've lived together for so long, and I've got a great girlfriend now. But I'm like, I don't ever want to not live with Scott or Deddrick somewhere. You've heard me say it before.
I mean, hey, it's all about just having the one workhouse. As long as we maintain that, then we have a base to come to. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I don't see, all these partnerships. I think we have an opportunity. That's the case study is, showing other entrepreneurs that collaboration at a very high level can be something beyond just working together or pooling resources together, but actually cohabitating and building something different. Our world is changing.
Mm-hmm.
And in many ways, like cohabitation in business makes more sense, right? For higher risk, higher reward, or higher outcome ventures
Yeah.
than trying to, everybody's siloed off. And, obviously with families and kids, it's a little different, but I still think the idea of coming together for some cohabitative spaces is part of the magic sauce that has made this work.
Yeah.
Even if people could do it to a limited degree.
Post COVID, with everybody trying to work from home with Zoom, could you imagine?
Right.
Gosh,
That was probably the worst time of running our business
Yep.
ever when we were
it was
Yep.
awful.
couldn't go into the hospital, couldn't meet with everybody.
And you have the people like, oh, Zoom's better. Like, yeah, Zoom's better because you're
Yeah.
fucking lazy.
Right.
Okay, you
Yeah.
say Zoom is not better.
No,
Like in person is where
I
it's
hate
at.
Zoom.
And I'll tell you too. I heard Dana White say it, but Deddrick, we've talked about it before. Like, right now, there's never been an easier time
Oh,
to
yeah.
be successful.
Oh, yeah.
Amen.
You got all these
Right.
soft people out here.
No
Right.
one's trying.
Yeah,
Right.
nobody's trying.
No one's trying.
You got the oppression Olympics.
Yeah.
You've got the
I mean, think about COVID was rough, no doubt about that. But since COVID, we've been on the grind, and look how much further we've come than the years before.
Right.
yeah.
Hope we
Sure.
had a good big team that stuck
Yeah.
with us through
Yeah.
everything. But that I definitely feel like, not that things are easy now,
No.
but it's easier.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it's not easy. That's for damn sure.
it's still hard work. Well, we're still working hard, but I feel like we gain more quicker than we
Sure.
used to.
Well, the game changer was when we decided to partner with Francisco
That was huge.
and do stem cells.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't want to do it for a long time. We needed a partner like Francisco. He was one of just a couple people that we were open to partnering with. He had hypoxic cells. Normoxic cells didn't really excite me that much.
Mm.
And he was going to be able to help us build, our cancer vaccine lab. That's,
Yeah.
And so, when we started doing the stem cells, that was a game changer because a lot of it funds now our cancer research. And, we get to do all these cool things without going to have, raising money. That's another thing. We've never taken an outside investor.
Yeah.
Not
That provides a
one to
lot of
answer to.
autonomy,
Yep.
in decision making, management, processes, everything. Everything's self contained. So we can create it the way we want to without someone else's financial interests,
right.
being a part of the mix.
Exactly.
No such thing as a silent partner ever.
Yeah, not from my experience.
Right.
But yeah, that's another big one. So
The best part about the stem cells, Francisco's finest stem cells, are that even when the ding dongs don't follow instructions afterwards, they still get good results.
Yeah,
really.
You know, like not like the cancer where you really need somebody to follow what they're supposed to do. I mean, we got people that don't listen to anything, still do great.
yeah,
Not as good as the ones who listen, but
Yeah.
we definitely have a good product, great product, and it's a game changer. I mean, it's obviously grown into a
saved my back.
saved your
I'm
back,
not cripple anymore.
saved a lot of people's backs.
A lot of
Yeah.
people's
It's
backs.
badass.
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot.
there's we will be publishing here soon, but the results, it's
I
gonna
wouldn't
be
have been
really
able to sit here for no 2-hour podcast.
good. Yeah,
Pre Francisco stem cells. I've been laying on the floor twitching for sure.
no, they definitely. It's been incredible watching. You know, that's a whole other,
Yeah.
a whole other subject per
Mhm.
se with the stem cells. But you know, it has been a lot of fun to see the people get better. A lot easier work than the cancer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot less heavy. You know, you're not. It's not
Oh,
life or
yeah.
death every day.
Yeah.
Still want to get back to the cancer. It's like
Yeah.
I enjoy trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
But it's been a blessing. You know, do the stem cells. Our friend Eddie Bravo got better.
Yeah.
That was pretty. We have so many friends that have gotten better.
So many. Yeah.
It's cool to be able to do it.
Yeah.
We went from putting geese and rash guards on people so they could go get more broken
Yeah,
to fixing
Here's
them
some
after
stem
being
cells.
broken.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming on the podcast,
Hell
and
yeah.
let's do
Thank
it
you.
again
Thanks for having
soon.
Hey,
Right.
Peace.
peace.